So it led me to remember that what Ken had written when I made the request for stories for the Frahm family album in 1986. This seemed to say something kind of pertaining to that. Ken was talking, or was writing, how he had visited with a German-born wife of a farmer in Thomas County, and kind of felt that our history here was short but spectacular. This German wife thought that we had a very short history, because she went on to say that her cousins in Germany own a flour mill, and they can trace continuous ownership of that mill by their family for the past 1,000 years. So Ken sums it up this way. 101 years ago, in 1885, Claude Snellbacker, the grandfather of this writer, was born. At an early age, he moved with his parents to Thomas County. Claude bought and farmed land in Thomas County, which is now passed from him to his two daughters and their husbands, Helen and Albert Frahm, and Lester and Clara Barrett, and on to their children, and some to their children's children. Claude lived with his mother, Amalia Lau Snellbacker Ulrich, and his stepfather, George Ulrich, during part of his teen years on a farm just 6 miles south of where Nicole Frahm now lives. Nicole is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Amalia Lau Snellbacker and the great niece of this writer. This makes 6 generations of this particular family living within 6 miles and 90 years of each other in Thomas County. Though hardly any time at all by the European perspective, the intervening 90 years has seen the agriculture dependence index move from probably less than 1 farmer producing for 10, where now it is over 75 people being provided by 1 farmer. And Ken told me today that they've changed that on that sign on the highway to 92 people are provided for by 1 Kansas farmer. So it's even changed in the last few years, according to the people who keep such statistics. Talking about Ronald's accomplishments, forgot to mention his being the first of the presidents of the Western Plains Arts Association. And here's a picture of Ronald and Peggy and their 3 children when they were in Topeka, and Ronald was in law school. Also, I was remembering the fun picnics we've had out on the farm. Tried to do one every summer, sometimes more than one. Then we come to the dedication of the Frahm Theater, when I had a couple of great-grands and 2 grands with me. Then I guess to sort of sum up, I was thinking how nice it was that my great-grandparents, the Laus, my grandma and grandpa Lau, who came to Thomas County in the early 1880s, and it was they who invited their daughter Amalia to come to Thomas County, her family. I've forgotten now already to tell about Bruce. We haven't named the date of Bruce and Janice's wedding. Was August the 6th in 1977. And of course I told you about going to Tahiti to meet them on their round the world trip in probably '79. And after I had the heart attack in 1981, Bruce and Janice had me to their home while we got a house ready in town for me to be moved into town. I remember when I was in the hospital, the kids came to ask what do you demand of a house in town, and I said 2 views. So I do have 2 views on Mays Road, 1015 Mays Road, off to the northwest, across a pretty good sized area to another part of Colby, and off to the east. Jonathan then was born that spring, May the 7th in 1981. Joe and Dana were married in Colby in 1982. Now to go ahead with this reminiscing that I was doing about great-grandparents. This is a picture taken probably 1914. It is of my grandmothers. Both my grandmothers belonged to the same ladies group. It was called Frauenverein in German, but it meant ladies' aid. I'm fond of this picture because it has the great-grandmother sort of in the middle. Right behind her, I'm being held up by an Aunt Augusta, who was the nurse of the family and died quite young. Also in the picture is my grandmother Ulrich, my grandmother Peters, and my mother. I feel that I learned a lot from my grandparents, of course, as I've already mentioned. Also the kind of a community spirit that dwelt among those ladies who all came from Germany. They had a great sense of place and an appreciation of home. Oh, I want to show a funny picture. Clara and I eating watermelon out in the yard, and in the back is the picture of the home that where I spent my girlhood after about 1924. And then when I was in high school, my father got an apartment in Colby, and we lived in the upper story of one of the apartments in the Conley building, which is northeast corner of the block that has his shop in it. Northeast corner? Well, northeast corner of the street, the northwest corner of the block. Then I was wishing I could find the picture of Ronald and Sharon and show how in those days we wore things until they were threadbare. They in their pajamas with each has a kitten, I guess. Also, I can't remember if I told about Ronald had a dog, Mimi, that was very important to his life. When he was little, Mimi was the word for milk when he wanted milk. It was a word for mail when it was time to go out and get the mail. And that was the name of his dog. Then we move on to the bins that were put up in probably early 50s, maybe 55 or so. This is the big scale that we've been telling about, and I suspect the scale was enlarged still more later when the scale house was elevated. No? Brian says it's the same size scale. Bruce is there on a tricycle on the scale. So I guess I noticed, and I had forgotten, that I promised in the Frahm family album in 1986 that I would do some more writing, and I failed to get at that. So because Peggy was going to do an assignment for a class, I was happy she invited me to do this oral history, something that we've been wishing we would get started. So I owe Peggy thanks for getting me started. To Brian for patiently these several hours filming it. I can, as I mentioned a little bit ago, can visualize family debating over these various dates that I probably have wrong in a few times. But hopefully it'll get some conversation and some digging into history, going. I'll have to say that I am thankful to God for His bountiful blessings, for my family, for my church, for my friends, especially those at Colby Community College, at the Historical Society, at the Senior Progress Center, and for the many friends in the whole community. My father, Albert, and I believed that one's community can become the best of communities, and that we owe much to a community where the land has been so bountiful and so good to us. So I find that I need to say that I'm grateful for this full life of 75 years, and I hope that my life has and will have an influence for good for tomorrow and each succeeding tomorrow.
Well, thank you very much, Helen, for your time. And I might note that we have spent a considerable amount of time doing this. Brian and I have met with Helen, I believe, on 5 occasions now, for periods of an hour and a half or so, to put this together. And Brian and I will always cherish this time.
So you're going to take it and get it copied, huh?
Yeah.